On today's video, we're going to be looking at arrests from the Sarasota Sheriff's Office. We went through and we found the foreign-born people, and we're going to be deciding if these people should be deported or forgiven based on the crimes they committed and the way they're living in the United States. You may think that I would be the person that would think I would forgive every last one of these people. It's not exactly the case. So we're going to review the crimes they're accused of doing allegedly for everybody. And then we're going to decide if those allegations were true, whether we would deport these people or forgive them. So on today's video, we're going to play the Are These People Deportable game. And if you disagree with me, let me know. Timestamp the person and let me know what you think about their situation. The Sarasota, Florida Police Department does something I think every police department in the United States should do, and that is state whether someone is a U.S. citizen or not and where they're from. So in today's video, we're going to look at recent arrests within the last month in Sarasota County, Florida, and we specifically looked for the people who are not U.S. citizens to see which foreign-born nationalities are causing the most havoc in Sarasota County. Since I was born in Cuba, we're going to start off talking first about Cubans so nobody's feelings get hurt. But Cubans are about the third or fourth by number, but they seem to be among the most destructive by types of crimes. Let's look at what some of these Cubans have been doing in Sarasota. This Cuban right here was caught with an anti-shoplifting device. Now, I have no idea what this is. Despite the fact that I'm Cuban, most of my Cuban friends are very decent people, so I have no idea what the crap an anti-shoplifting device is. But if I had to take a guess, I would say it's a device that deactivates the alarm, so you're able to go into a store and steal. It blocks the signal so that they can do shoplifting. Now, this individual Cuban lives in a trashy apartment complex in the city of Fort Myers, Florida, but he found himself all the way in Sarasota testing out his new devices. Thanks to the Sarasota Police Department, he was locked up, and this is a very common crime. Apparently, Cubans are into this. I guess it's mostly theft-related crimes with Cubans, but as you're going to see on today's list, these Cubans are making the types of crimes that are very destructive. Economical crimes on a very sophisticated level. We're talking stealing cars, stealing boats, stealing fuel, stealing anything they can get their hands on, but on a massive scale. They don't seem to be petty thieves. They seem to be very sophisticated, and like Alexander is about to find out, it says here clearly he is a Cuban national. It doesn't denote whether he's a U.S. citizen or not. On most of these people, I'm going to say deport or not. In the case of this individual, if he is not a U.S. citizen, he hasn't become a U.S. citizen, he's a Cuban national, and he's handling whatever the crap device he has, I would say definitely deport him. That's a fairly complicated crime. You have to really think this out. You got to know people that have these devices. You got to be in with the wrong crowd. You got to have the wrong intention. This is a premeditated type of crime. Definitely this dude, adios amigo. I did extensive research on these individuals. I got their addresses. I looked up the businesses they owned. I want to know everything I can about these individuals who are foreign born and the crimes that they're committing in our county. And it's great that the Sarasota County Sheriff's Office provides us the country of origin, their occupation, and even their exact address. If you break the law in Sarasota County, there's nowhere to hide. This next Cuban, take a look at the size of this guy's property. He has his home in West Palm Beach. Look at the size of this property. It's got a pool. It's on a canal. Looks like it's on at least 5 acres. Meet Jose Luis, Cuban national. He is deportable because he's not a U.S. citizen. He is a Cuban national. Now, he's got the trending Cuban crime of possession of a shoplifting device. I don't know what this thing is, but Cubans have got their hands on him. This individual has 3 charges and a beautiful property in West Palm Beach. Maybe he owns a property, maybe his family owns a property, I'm not sure, but that is where he's living, with a pool on a canal. And if you're living like that in the United States while stealing and not being a U.S. citizen, a national of another country, what do you think we should do with him? Pa la madre que lo parió. We're going to deport him. Can you imagine how bad these individuals make hard-working, legitimate Cubans like me look? As a Cuban, when I see another Cuban doing these types of crimes to live this type of lifestyle, the Cuban from Kentucky, he's got a beautiful house in Louisville. He's got a stand outside where he sells fresh eggs and vegetables from his garden. It's a beautiful property. There is a U.S. Marshals hold on this Cuban. Now, it says he's from Kentucky, but I'm sure they did that on purpose so he can get extradited back to Kentucky, where the U.S. Marshals are looking for him. Says he's a U.S. citizen, so he can't be deported, unfortunately, but he's definitely got himself caught in some interesting crimes. What a nice house in Louisville. As we're going to learn in today's video, deportables sometimes come in pairs of two. Like these individuals who came up to Sarasota to steal car and car accessories. They like to commit high-value crimes. One is from Cape Coral, the other is from Hialeah. They teamed up and found themselves in Sarasota County trying to do some pretty big thefts of motor vehicle and motor vehicle accessories. Definitely deport them. You think about the level of sophistication. One is from Cape Coral, the other one is from Hialeah in Miami. To come all the way up here, these are well thought out crimes. These are individuals who are part of criminal syndicates. They know what they're doing. Now the code says CC is for Cuba, but in technical terms that would be Costa Rica. So the sheriff's office needs to get their terms correctly when they register some of these people. That doesn't seem like they do a great job of accurately marking where they're from. I mean, they put it up, but it's kind of relative. It isn't an exact science. I mean, technically CC is for Costa Rica, but I don't believe Costa Ricans would do something so horrendous in Sarasota. The Hialeah address a clear indication that these individuals are actually Cubans. Clearly a sophisticated and elaborate scheme to come over here and steal heavier equipment and vehicles. That's a type of crap that is well thought out. There's no excuse for it. These individuals are devoting themselves to crime on a massive scale. They're part of a crime syndicate. Good things coming to unless they're Cubans. These two Cubans right here, both are Cuban nationals, decided that they were going to steal fuel. Again, another elaborate criminal enterprise by two individuals who are clearly deportable. So one of the most interesting, things that I discovered during today's video is that a lot of these individuals that do these types of crimes that are foreign-born always have a foreign-born buddy to go along with them. Then there's this Cuban lady right here, CC Cuban, or could be Costa Rican, because CC really represents Costa Rican. Well, she's forgiven. And trespassing is kind of what we call a homeless crime. It's not really the end of the world. She's still a Cuban national. She needs to become a U.S. citizen, and she needs to stop going on other people's properties. Do I think she needs to get deported? Probably not, but she does need to get her crap together. And those were the Cubans that were arrested over the last month in Sarasota County and the crimes they committed. It seems that when Cubans come into, you get double Cuban trouble. When it comes to committing crimes, these Cubans are going for the big prize. They're not going for small ticket items. They're going for the big tickets and very elaborate schemes to defraud and steal. So you know what? I think we should give them the biggest reward possible and deporting them for their actions. It gives Cubans a horrible reputation. But the only nationality that has a worse reputation than Cubans when it comes to committing crimes in the Sarasota area is Venezuelans. This particular Venezuelan national, who's not a U.S. citizen apparently, was scheming to defraud over $5,000. Just like Cubans, Venezuelans are very elaborate. When they go for crime, they go for the big ticket. So let's give this guy the big prize of deportation. The next Venezuelan, it's the same Venezuelan again, this time for a DUI. 2 times in 1 month. Somebody please give this guy a plane ticket. He's desperate to go back to Venezuela. The next individual is also a Venezuelan who, of course, had no driver's license. I think he should know better than that. Deported. He happens to have a Chicago address. I just want to add, I'm not going to say which individual people in today's videos I've met in person, but some of the people in today's video, I've actually Uber driven them around town. So these are individuals who don't have exactly a driver's license and they use an Uber in the meantime. That's the way you're supposed to do it. But these are also the types of individuals that are getting arrested for other crimes as well. So these people are not dumb. They know what they're doing. They think they're slick and sophisticated, and they're getting the deportation. Another Venezuelan here, shoplifting and stealing. You know what, dude? You're getting deported. If you're coming here from another country, the last thing you should do is be stealing. Our next Venezuelan, again, no driver's license, deported. Doesn't even have an occupation listed. These individuals should at the very least list an occupation so they don't look like horrendous individuals who don't follow the law. You're not listing the occupation. You're too good for an Uber driver. You just want to go ahead and drive without a driver's license. That's not the way things work. Another Venezuelan with no driver's license. Again, deportable. Notice he's off of Cattleman. That seems like a popular address for foreign-born criminals. After that comes the Vamo area. It seems like those two areas have a lot of people from other countries who are breaking the law. On the other hand, the Nokomis area for U.S.-born citizens has a disproportionately large number of people getting arrested. Those are Venezuelans. They are definitely the second largest by number. Now, when it comes to number of people getting arrested, without a doubt, Hondurans lead the list. Now, Hondurans are not committing horrendous crimes. In fact, there seems to be only one crime that Hondurans are breaking the law, and that's no driver's license. By number, Hondurans have the most arrests for foreign-born people in Sarasota County. This guy is getting deported, however, because he likes to leave the scene of a crash while driving with no driver's license. That right there, if he likes to leave, well, he likes to leave the scene of a crash. He can also leave the scene of Sarasota. All right, the next Hondureño is getting deported. He's too old to be in the United States, okay? At this age, he needs to be back home with his grandkids and great-grandkids. You an old man, old people don't have a future in this country. In the United States of America, we believe in exploiting people, and you can't exploit old people. You're deportable. The United States doesn't even care about their own elderly and disabled people, so how could they care about other people's? The next Honduran is a young kid with no valid driver's license. He's a server, he's working. He deserves a better chance. He listed an occupation. He has a smile on his face. It sucks that people like this can't get a driver's license so they can work. The next Honduran is getting deported. He didn't list an occupation. He said he's from Charlotte, South Carolina. That doesn't exist. There's a Charlotte, North Carolina. There's no Charlotte, South Carolina. I looked up the address where he was supposed to live. It seems like he might have been running away from another state. Why are you leaving another state and coming to Florida? All that seems suspicious. The homie's definitely getting the deportation. You don't have a driver's license, you don't have an occupation, and you have an address from another state. None of that adds up. There's just too many inconsistencies here. The next Honduran is Javier. We're going to forgive him. He had no valid driver's license. He lists his occupation as stucco. Really, only Salvadorians and, of course, Hondurans know how to do stucco well in Florida. That's kind of like their niche hobby or occupation there. They're the best at it. He has his family in a nice home in a nice area of Bradenton. Seems like he's trying to do everything the right way. Has an occupation, has a nice home. Unfortunately, he got caught without a driver's license. I really feel bad for people like that. After a hurricane, we can definitely use people who are good at stucco. He's got the occupation, he's got his family in a good place. All that would indicate to me that he's an individual who's trying to provide a better future for his people. And it really, again, sucks that he's getting caught on this driver's license charge. I'm sure he knows how to drive very well. As far as sheer number of arrests, it seems like Hondurans are being arrested at a far larger scale than any other nationality, but they're being arrested on some mediocre driver's license charges. They're not stealing. They're not committing fraud. They're just driving to their occupation. So about 5 Cubans, 5 Venezuelans, and 5 Hondurans. These are the 3 nationalities that by number have the most arrests. By far, it seems like Hondurans are better specimens than Cubans and Venezuelans just by the nature of the crimes they're committing. Seems like the only crime they're committing is trying to get to work. And you know, the one that left the scene of a crash, individuals like that ruin it for their people, because if you don't know how to drive and you cause an accident or an accident, you ran out of luck, man. It's over. You can't just leave the scene of a crime and then it becomes a bigger problem now. You just can't do that. And again, people like that only make it harder for their own people. All right, so we move on to the fastest of all the Latinos, Los Chapines, the Guatemalans. Now, they're going to get a Ferrari for the background photo because They're the fastest working people in America. They deserve the fastest car. But some of them also deserve some of the fastest deportations we can hand out. By number, Guatemalans are not far behind. Now, when it comes to Latinos, Guatemalans are the hardest working and probably the most appreciated out of all the migrant groups simply because of their reputation of being hard workers. But unfortunately, these are not the best specimens of Guatemalans. And I have to mention, for the most part, most Guatemalans look Mayan or, indigenous. But the ones getting arrested are actually the whiter ones. It seems like when they look a little bit whiter, they think they're a little bit smarter. They think they're a little bit more savvy than the rest of the Guatemalans. And it seems like the Guatemalans that are getting arrested here today seem to be a little bit more of the white variety of Guatemalans versus the typical, more Mayan-looking ones. But let's get into this. The first one is a young person who we're going to deport. He actually had a fake driver's license. The falsification of documents can never be tolerated. That goes against everything the United States stands for. There's no excuse for that. Interestingly, he listed his occupation as a dishwasher, so you could have ridden a bicycle like all the other Guatemalans, but of course, he's a little wider and taller than the rest of them, so he can't be like them. I would say by percentage of the population, Guatemalans are the hardest working and most deserving of being given the privilege to become a U.S. citizen. But the specimens that we're looking at on today's list are the ones that are getting arrested. If he had just remained humble, rode an Uber like one of the other Guatemalans on today's video, which I actually had in my Uber recently, a little bit of humility goes a long way. If you stay humble, sometimes it's better for you. But if you try to get that ride because you want to get the fake ID and you want to be fly and you're just too good to be on a bicycle like the rest of the Guatemalans, that's when things get too complicated for you and you end up getting deported. Our next Guatemalan is a contempt of court listed as a Guatemalan national. You know what, dude? I'd hate to deport people over trivial crap, but again, it's a white Guatemalan, which are a very small percentage of the Guatemalan population. But these dudes really believe they're better than other Guatemalans, and sometimes they do stuff like contempt of court. It's trivial, but too bad. Humility goes a long way, and he didn't even have an occupation listed. You can see the smirk on his face, contempt of court. You know what, dude? If you're from another country, you're not a U.S. citizen, and you're here going to court, you should really be complying to whatever the crap they're telling you. You shouldn't be really arrogant in front of a judge or giving them any trouble at all because, again, your situation probably is deportable. So why are you being arrogant in front of a court? And keep in mind, guys, I'm not a deportation judge. All I am is a YouTuber giving you my opinion. These individuals could have tried to have their arrest report say if they were U.S. citizens if they were. So if somebody's here a U.S. citizen and they're not deportable, it doesn't matter. This is just my opinion. And my opinion is that these two chapinas need to get chapeadas and deportadas back to their native land. They are shoplifting together. They get together to shoplift. If you are in this country and you're not a U.S. citizen, you shouldn't be breaking the laws. And if you're going shoplifting with your friend y tú crees que eres una chapina muy bonita, pues te van a mandar para la fronterita. So, no. Too bad. And the sad thing is, if these were some square-headed Guatemalans, they'd be riding a bicycle from work to home, and they wouldn't be getting arrested for shoplifting or fake IDs. It seems like it's the ones that are a little bit more white and more pretty looking and younger, who think they're slicker, that are breaking the laws. They're not appreciating the fact that they're in the United States and they should make the best of it. And again, in the case of Guatemalans, it seems like humility goes a long way. And I hate to say it, as much as I like Guatemalans, these individuals are all deportable. And while overall I love the Guatemalan people, I have to say that these particular specimens don't seem like they are knowing their place. If you're here illegally or you're not a U.S. citizen, you should probably be working and following the law, not causing trouble. Guatemalan people have a great reputation, and these individuals are working against the reputation that their people have worked very hard for. Talking about ruining a good reputation, our next deportees are going to be from Brazil. Now, Brazilians have a great reputation, and there's a lot of Brazilians in the Sarasota area. The vast majority of them dedicating themselves to occupations like house cleaning, an occupation that requires the absolute trust of the people who are hiring you. And that's why what these two Brazilian women have done really, really hurts the Brazilian community. See, they both have house cleaning listed as their occupation. The occupation that most Brazilians are doing in this community that requires the trust of the people that are hiring them. And they're both arrested for stealing. They have to get deported. Just the reputation harm that they're doing to their entire Brazilian community is so horrendous, because this is how most Brazilians living in this area make a living, and they hurt the trust of the people that trusted them inside of their homes. It's a horrible thing that somebody who's been giving so much trust, possibly because they're white, possibly because they're females and they look pretty and young and they speak a little cute little Brazilian accent, people trusted them because they look like they were more white. They might have looked like they were more just a nicer version of an immigrant, more white, more Caucasian maybe. All that fails. Appearances once again fool you, and these individual Brazilian women are really hurting the reputation of a community that again depends on this occupation, which requires the absolute trust of the people to clean their freaking homes. It's horrendous what these women have done, not so much to the victims, but to their actual community of Brazilians, because this is how they earn their living. Que coisa! A gente marginal, que coisa! What a shame. Ciao. Deported. Talking about voler, I didn't run into any Haitians during the list. And I believe, Haitians, a few of these are nationalities, they have American names. And I had to, as I'm clicking on all these pages to find you these things, skip over the names that sound American. Sometimes Haitian names can sound very American, so it is what it is. So for Sarasota being an overwhelmingly white county, it doesn't seem like the most suitable place for Haitians to fit in. But Brazilians fit in very well, and there's a lot of them here, and some of them are up to no good. All right, so those are the largest groups that have the largest numbers of arrests. And then you have the individuals representing their country, like the one person that wants to go out there and represent their country. Let's go through these. Well, there is two people from the UK who decided that they wanted to drink and drive. This is a very normal thing. It's a culture of drinking back in their country, and they think that they can come and do it here. And DUI is not the worst crime in the world, but it is a huge problem in the Sarasota area. And you can always hurt somebody while doing that. They're representing the United Kingdom, and there are a lot of European immigrants in the Sarasota area. And while they make a smaller percentage of the population, they're definitely breaking the law, just like everybody else. In the case of these people from the United Kingdom, I would deport both of them. I mean, you speak the same language as the Americans. You're not lost. You're not confused. You know what time it is. You speak the same language. You're from a sophisticated country yourself. There's no excuse for people from a country like that to have to come here and break the law. It's a level of arrogance. And this is where I think the courts and Americans in general have things messed up. See, these individuals here from UK, they're no different than a Guatemalan or an Honduran. A lot of times people are filled with hate and rage when it's a Salvadorian or when it's an Honduran or Mexican that's doing these things. But when it's somebody from the UK, they're not fazed by it. Why? It's the same thing. You're not from this country. You came here. You disrespected the laws. You got a DUI. You're drinking and driving. You know what? At least the other ones, they're not drinking and driving. They were actually driving without a driver's license. So it's not like they were trying to break the law because they were drinking. They were breaking the law because they couldn't get a driver's license. So it's even more innocent if you think about it. This is where people's feelings don't match up with the way things should work. There's a difference between somebody who has a driver's license and decides to drink because they're too good to call an Uber. They live in Lakewood Ranch in nice areas, by the way, so there's no excuse. It's not like they can't afford it. They're just too arrogant and they want to drink and drive because they think they can do whatever they want, versus somebody who's driving without a driver's license to go to work. It's a completely different intention. They definitely need to get deported. If you're coming here from Europe or another advanced country that doesn't give you a ticket, you're not any better than a Mexican, you're not any better than a Guatemalan, you're not from here either. And if you break the laws and you're from the UK, you are deportable just like everybody else. You're no different. In fact, I would expect even more from you, considering that you speak the same language and come from an advanced country. Why are you coming here to the United States to be a mess up? Why are you drinking and driving, getting in trouble here? You're not from here. You come from a country, there's no reason for you to be here. Your country's not hungry or going through some crime issues. Your country's a good country, so if you're coming here to disrespect the United States, why? Safety is a huge concern in Honduras. It isn't in the United Kingdom. So you're coming here, you think because you have money, you're more affluent, that you can just do whatever you want. And no, you're deportable. And actually, as we get into some of these European people, you're going to start to see the types of things that they get arrested for are actually more bold, disrespectful. These are the types of people that think they can drive without a driver's license. No, they think they can drink and put people's lives in danger with a driver's license. Very different. And then you got individuals that want to put their hands on other people. So now in Sarasota, you have all these immigrants from all these European countries or other Caucasian backgrounds. And these individuals, they really feel like they can drink and drive. They can put their hands on other people. And because they're European, they're wealthy, they're elite, they're Karens, that they're somehow immune to the law. And they feel like they're better than other immigrants. We've had a lot of cases in the Sarasota and Bradenton area where these European or Caucasian immigrants from other countries come over here and disrespect other people, put their hands on other people, and they feel that because they have money and they're from affluent places and they're white and they're European or whatever, that they can do all these behaviors and they can come over here and disrespect other people, treating other migrants badly even. It's a level of arrogance, like they're above the law. And no, in reality, you're deportable as well. That's the way I look at it. If you have a different opinion or if you believe these people from the UK or these other European countries should be treated differently than Central American immigrants, I would like to hear your explanation because I don't think they're any different. I mean, if you think about it, you can walk from Central America to here. You're from halfway around the world. What makes you think you can just come over here, drink and drive and do all these crimes, put your hands on other people, etc., etc.? I don't have that sentiment. If you're in the comments, let me know if you think differently. Now, there were a few Mexicans, I think a handful of Mexicans, like 4 or 5. These Mexicans were driving without a valid driver's license, typical charge for Mexicans. I'd forgive them. One's a painter, one is a roofer. They're just going to work. I think these guys got arrested together, maybe on the same day. If they were together, I'd be curious to know if they were both driving at the same time, how did that happen? It'd be interesting to know. A Mexican here not paying child support. Again, this is a white Mexican, kind of similar to the Guatemalan situation where does he think because he's a white Mexican that he's not going to have to take care of his kids like all the other Mexicans? Mexicans are great parents, so this guy's getting deported. I've never seen a Mexican who refuses to take care of their family. That's actually what they're known for doing, so deport him back to Mexico, and maybe in Mexico he can learn how to take care of his family better. You don't see too many white Mexicans like him, but the ones that you do see are getting arrested. I feel like if you're an immigrant, you should just be who you are, not try to pretend to be somebody you're not lose touch with your culture. It seems like us immigrants, the moment we think we're white or become a U.S. citizen, next thing you know, we start acting arrogant and forgetting who exactly we are. I think it's a problem that we have as immigrants. If we get too Americanized or we're too white or we start to fade in too much, and next thing you know, we just kind of lose touch of who we are. We start pretending to be somebody we're not, even forgetting who we actually are and where we actually came from. And maybe I'm wrong, but I think that, a lot of the things that happen in the courts in this country are based off of hate, not of actual law. And many of these individuals, even in the courts, might get a lot of favoritism from judges, and they actually might escape deportations more often than other individuals who look more stereotypical. This individual listed as a Mexican national was actually doing the whole DUI thing, and he actually ended up hurting somebody in the process. It lists him here as a Mexican national. If he's not a U.S. citizen, he needs to get, that's right, deported. Just like the next Mexican, this individual here, no valid driver's license, doesn't have an occupation listed. It seems like he hasn't figured things out. Deported, sadly. I hope I'm not wrong on this one, but I think he should have really listed an occupation for me to feel more sympathetic, more personalized. But no occupation doesn't really help. Well, this one here looks like a treat. It has him listed as being from Jordan, if the code is correctly. He's not listed as a U.S. citizen. He says he's a rideshare driver, so maybe a Lyft or Uber driver, engaged in violent behavior like fighting other people, causing a public disturbance. Has an address listed out of Orlando. definitely deported. If you're not a U.S. citizen, the last thing you should be doing as an adult is putting your hands on other people. 1. Deportable. Failing to register as a criminal. Yeah, if you're a criminal, I don't even think you should just register. I think you should just get deported. If you're from El Salvador, that's your country of nationality, you're not a U.S. citizen. Why are we even registering you as a criminal? Shouldn't we just deport you as a criminal? Here's an interesting specimen. It doesn't say where he's from, but something tells me this guy is Russian. He refused the police officer with resisting and restraining. He also was trespassing. And the address where he lives is supposed to be out of Chicago. I looked up the address and I really doubt he's living there. Refusing to give information, refusing to resisting arrest. When they asked him his occupation, he refused to say. He resisted the police officers. He has a hiding and refusing attitude. So let's just go ahead and refuse this guy with a deportation. It doesn't say he's a U.S. citizen. It doesn't specify where he's from. If I knew any better, I would say this is a Russian. There's a lot of Russians here in the Sarasota area. This is actually a national security threat group, but people don't seem too concerned about individuals like him. I think his address in Chicago is a lie. I think he's trying to hide something. I think he's a Russian, and he was doing some suspicious trespassing behavior, I believe, as well. So there's a lot of weird, creepy, concerning behavior about this individual, and this is the type of behavior you get from some of the Russians that are here. Now, some of the Russians are legitimately trying to leave their country because of the things that are happening there right now, which can be very scary for some individuals. But this guy is clearly a deportation waiting to happen. We have a lot of Russians and Ukrainians in this area, and this is a very sensitive group. I mean, you have to think about what's going on over there. A lot of them are really scary individuals, and they are very slick. They hide their addresses, they hide their information. They refuse to give any information. This is the type of individual who could very realistically be living in the United States illegally, perhaps trying to hide or conceal something. I think this is a red flag right here. This guy definitely worries me. Wouldn't want to have anything to do with him here. I think out of all the people on today's video, this guy here concerns me the most because it seems like he's trying to hide, refuse, restrict, restrain, or resist. All those types of behaviors are very concerning. Seems like there's something to hide here. Big red flag for me. This guy worries me. And like him, you have a lot of people, they're very arrogant, and they even look down on other people from other countries like if they weren't immigrants themselves. It's a huge problem with some of the Russians in this area here in Sarasota. They believe because they're rich and affluent, that laws simply don't apply to them. Ironically, even though many times they're not even here legitimately themselves. Take a look at this property right here, clearly into the millions. Now, this angry fighting Hungarian national is now a U.S. citizen, so he's not deportable technically, but, very wealthy, very affluent European living in Sarasota. He's a fighting Hungarian. He put his hands on somebody else. If I personally had a property like this, I would be laughing at anybody. I couldn't imagine myself living in a property like this and giving a crap about putting my hands on somebody else. If I'm living like this, I don't give a crap what the next person thinks. There's no reason for me to put my hands on anybody if I'm living like this. But again, arrogance comes with the situation here. A lot of wealthy Europeans live in Sarasota. They're not here illegally. In fact, this guy is listed as a U.S. citizen, but he's still a criminal, born somewhere else, breaking the laws in the United States, putting his hands on somebody else, but not deportable. Then you have this nice unemployed Indian girl, listed as unemployed, apparently not a U.S. citizen. She was involved in some type of retail theft. I'd deport her. Now, I don't know what TU stands for. Technically, TU would stand for Tunisian. I don't know if that's correct because it's the Sarasota Police Department and they're not too accurate. Wherever the crap this guy's from, he had a DUI. He has no job listed. Doesn't seem like an American citizen. Wherever the crap he's from, I'd deport him. I think this guy's from Martinique. I don't know if the code is correct. Wherever the crap this guy's from, he's registered as an air condition, not air condition, air condition But in front of his house, if you go on Google Earth and you look up his address, you can see an air conditioning truck, and it's a very simple truck. I think the guy was just trying to get back and forth from work. Seems like he's got an occupation. He's living in a duplex, so he's not living extravagantly, and his truck isn't too fancy. Seems like this guy is legitimately just working, doing air conditioning work wherever he's from. I think it's Martinique, according to this thing. I don't know where the nationality may be. If it's correct, it would be Martinique. Looks like the guy's just working, doing air conditioning work, and living humbly. Just a small nationality, a different place, perhaps. Wherever he's from, the point is, seems like he's working, and, well, I think he deserves an opportunity, so I'll forgive him. This lady here was part of that incident with the rideshare driver. Apparently, I don't know where she's from because the code is incorrect. If I had to take a guess by her last name, she's probably Italian, but wherever she's from, she was part of a violent brawl, and she's not a U.S. citizen, so wherever her national country is, I would deport her for being violent. Now, on today's video, we didn't get to see every single arrest from every single nationality in the last month. That would be an extraordinarily difficult video to make in its accuracy, but this should give you a pretty good idea of who the foreign-born people are who are breaking the law in Sarasota. While today's video isn't exactly every single person that's foreign-born that was arrested in Sarasota, it's probably about a 70% picture of who they are, and it gives us an idea. There's individuals from strange countries, from far away, places you don't hear about too often, that come here and decide that they want to drink, drive, and even get into fights in public. Of course, that type of behavior is not acceptable. Now, Sarasota is a wealthy, affluent place, and it attracts people from all over the world, and sometimes those people think because they have a lot of money that they don't need to behave. But we can also see that there are individuals from places that are a little bit closer in Latin America that are coming here to work and are getting caught with no driver's license, even though they have a legitimate occupation that the community needs. But there are other individuals within those same nationalities that ruin it for everybody else by doing things that are much more unacceptable, like, of course, drinking and driving. And then you have individuals like the Cubans and Venezuelans that seem to be somewhat of a plague, and I'm a Cuban myself, saying that about my own people. And it's individuals like that that give our communities a bad reputation. For the most part, most Cubans and Venezuelans as well are hardworking people. But unfortunately, we are disproportionately contributing to crime, and not just regular crimes. I'm talking things that are more sophisticated, the type of thing that's almost part of criminal syndicates. Those are the types of things that really don't make your community as a whole look favorable. They make your community look like a freaking burden on the society of the United States. And that is the reality. You perhaps may think, especially if you read some of the comments on my channel, that I would be forgiving every last one of these people. But in the case of individuals who break the law, no. I'm for people that come here to work and do things the right way. But if you're coming here to break the law, living in the United States is a privilege in a lot of ways. So if you're coming to the United States and you're not aware of the privilege you have, you're not appreciating the opportunity to be here because you're engaging in these thankless behaviors, and perhaps you don't need to be here. There's other individuals who wish they had the same opportunity and don't get it.